President Cyril Ramaphosa has congratulated United States President-elect Joe Biden on winning last week's election. Incumbent Republican President Donald Trump has shown no real interest in strengthening ties with African countries. So how will Africa, and specifically South Africa, fare under a Joe Biden presidency? Well, let's discuss this now with International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor. Minister, great to see you. Thanks very, very much for being with us this morning.
Good morning, Leanne, and lovely to be with you again and with SABC. Good morning to all the viewers of the channel.
So let's first start off. We've heard our president congratulating President-elect Joe Biden. Perhaps you want to sort of start off by giving your thoughts or congratulations on the Biden-Harris win.
Well, obviously, it's a very historic win. We congratulate President-elect Biden, as President Ramaphosa has done. But I think most particularly, we are all absolutely excited at the history being made of the first woman who will serve as Vice President. That's Vice President-elect Harris, as well as a Black woman holding that honor. I think all young Black girls and women know that, there is no limit. One can go as far as one wishes. And we, as South Africa, are looking forward to strengthening our relations with the new executive of the United States of America. Yeah. Of course, as President Ramaphosa has indicated in his statement, we already have very strong relations with the United States, because I think what our government has done over the years, the various governments since the advent of democracy, have diversified the nature of relationships that we have. So they're in trade, they're in education, science, collaboration in health, most particularly, where through the PEPFAR funding, the United States provides significant support to South Africa's HIV and AIDS programs. So, it's really a broad relationship which has withstood many different governments. And we now have a sense of optimism that President-elect Biden, who I understand in his 100-day program, has signaled building stronger links with the African continent as part of his 100-day priorities.
If we have to look back over Trump's tenure as president, there were a lot of words uttered by President Trump about Africa, and some of them not very complimentary at all, to say the least. And also, some of the wording in terms of speaking to South Africa, the crime rate in South Africa, and also worrying about farmers and things like that. Those are kind of the utterances, but not necessarily a state visit or anything along those lines. Perhaps we can get an idea from you, during the tenure of Trump, where has South Africa been? Has it even been on his radar?
Well, it certainly has, because we have had contact with him in various fora. As you know, South Africa is an invitee to the G7 meetings. We are part of the G20. And so there have been many fora where our president has had an opportunity to have bilateral engagements with President Trump. And of course, in the course of this year, as South Africa confronted the pandemic, surprisingly, we did get a lot of support and interest from President Trump, including direct calls to President Ramaphosa, followed by the health equipment and other forms of support that we received. I think the comments that were made were quite offensive, actually, but didn't reflect, as I say, that broad range of cooperation that we have and continue to have with the United States. I think now let's move with today's man and woman, and build stronger partnerships and greater cooperation.
You emphasize with this man and this woman, and you did allude to Kamala Harris in your first answer, who is now, of course, going to be the Vice President of the U.S. Your views on this, because it also has been a very difficult time in terms of the advancement of women when we look at the Trump era of governance, and many talking to the fact that, you know, it was very sexist. There wasn't too much representation of the right women in powerful positions, and now seeing somebody like Kamala Harris coming in, who has, of course, broken records of being the first black woman to be sitting in that office, which is in effect an absolutely fantastic accolade. But again, what does this mean to South Africa and the world, having a representative like that in such a powerful position?
Well, I think as we reflect, you reflect back to President Obama and the service of Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. You certainly at that time did see a focus on women worldwide as part of her programs as the essentially Foreign Minister of the United States of America. I think now we would hope for much more. President-elect Biden got a very strong affirmation from women voters. I think there is expectation that his top team will have a good gender balance to it. And we would hope that we will, build strong links with Vice President-elect Harris, as well as all the appointees to the new executive. Mm. So the hope will be a focus on women, a focus on peace and security, which is very important to women, and ensuring that women play a very strong role worldwide in all the relationships internationally that the United States would be involved in. So certainly the advance of women, given where we are 25 years of the Beijing Platform of Action, 20 years of Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security, 75 years of the United Nations. I certainly hope that President-elect Biden and the Vice President-elect will have a very positive and different attitude toward the United Nations, and that will see a stronger embrace of multilateralism than we've had in the past 5 years.
Minister, just a question and a lot of concern from some factions and some different areas saying that, with regard to Trump not necessarily accepting the results as yet, not conceding defeat and still working on legal challenges against these election results. What is South Africa's stance on something like this?
Well, this is a matter that the United States authorities should resolve. I hope that we will always practice democracy and respect democratic institutions and outcomes as South Africa. We are rather surprised that a country that has been running elections for many, many decades faces this kind of problem. It takes us back to the early part of this century, where there was a rather odd election, and you will recall the Shard, which hadn't been properly processed, it was said, and there were all sorts of quarrels. This one stands out as rather more astounding, and I believe the electoral administration of the various states and the local municipalities, the regions, will resolve this matter as speedily as possible in order to assure the doubting part of the United States population that indeed they had a free and fair election.
Two final questions before I let you go, Minister. Realistically, with Biden only actually taking office early next year, I think it's the 20th of January is the official date, the coronavirus pandemic in the US is massive. We saw 125,000 infections in just one day over the weekend. It's now gone over the 10 million mark of infections. The death toll is moving up to 250,000 deaths. This has really fractured and polarized society. in terms of opening up borders and in terms of what we could actually say, will they be looking outside of their borders soon to try and find some solutions to help the situation? I mean, South Africa has been commended in many forms for the way that it has treated the coronavirus.
Well, I think the United States has a very, very big problem, and I'm glad that President-elect Biden has signaled that this is the first agenda item on his list of many areas that he must attend to. I hope that he will be able to persuade the people of the United States that the actions that will be proposed by the science task team that he intends to put together, that they will adopt those actions, which are very basic restrictions that seek to get the population to provide the necessary support to themselves and each other in ensuring that they are safe and protected. And where greater health facilities are needed, I'm sure they'll be able to advise as to what steps should be taken in that regard. Yeah. So you now have a leader who seemingly recognizes, certainly in his first public statements, the seriousness of this problem, and has indicated, even though at this moment he does not have executive authority, that he is going to act in the interest of his people and the nation to tackle this very serious pandemic, which is causing great harm in the United States of America. And I think that's a bold step, an important one. And of course, once you're president-elect in the United States, there is an understanding that you can begin to take steps that will indicate the nature of executive government that you will have in place from January.
Well, finally, Minister, I mean, we know how polarized, unfortunately, the US is at the moment, because when you see the amount of votes that President Trump did get, he, well over 70 million, and there are many supporters that believe in Trump. However, Biden, through the electoral system of the US, got that college vote, which of course makes him the president. Historically, South Africa relations with the US, it seems we've had better relations with Democrat presidents. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, if we look at Bill Clinton, very close to former President Nelson Mandela, former President Obama, also very friendly with South Africa under President Jacob Zuma, even coming and addressing South Africa more than one occasion. However, Republicans like Ronald Reagan, former president, who held the view of the ANC and Madiba as a terrorist organization, and former President Mbeki's disagreement with George W. Bush on the Iraq War. I mean, these are just some instances of history where Democrats, Republicans, the Democrats seem to have a better relationship with South Africa. What are your views on that? I mean, do you think that is something we can look forward to, stronger ties with the Biden administration?
Well, Leanne, I think it's important, without wanting to cause any quarrel between President Ramaphosa and myself, it's important for me to say that diplomatic and international relations occur at different levels than between presidents solely. And so while they may have those quarrels up there, we, the termites, the workers, will build the relationships, the partnerships, work on strengthening them, make sure that we have increased trade, ensure that our young people have great opportunity for skills training, put our scientists together in innovative partnerships. This is our job. The presidents can quarrel up there, we do the work down here. Yeah. And that's how I would approach it.
I love that. We're going to quote you on the termite term. I like that. We, the termites, do the work. Minister, thank you for your time. Thanks for talking to us. Minister of International Relations Cooperation, Naledi Pandor, discussing US President-elect Joe Biden's victory and what it means for our relationship with the United States going forward. Very interesting conversation, but there is so much that can still happen between now and January, and we wait to see when Biden takes office. Right, the time, just a few seconds